Welcome to the show. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Well Vodka. If you're not doing good, you're doing well. Roll the music.
Ladies and gentlemen, from an undisclosed location in Portland, Oregon, the spare bedroom, it's time for MTG Tonight with your host, Jake Boss.
Tonight on the program, I'm sitting down with none other than the award-winning OG Magic YouTube talk show host, John Dunning. We're going to be talking about his top 5 picks from War of the Spark, cards that you should actually care about and buy and put in your cart, cards for real folks like us, and his picks for the Magic movie. We're talking producers, directors, actors, composers, the whole nine. But first, please welcome to the magic of television, John Dunning.
Woo! Hello!
There
Thank
it
you.
is.
Yes.
Proof that he's an award winner.
The award winner right here. Oh, I'm usually not about stuff like that, but I couldn't believe it, and it's such a nice trophy from JJ.
I couldn't believe that. That was so cool that he sent those out.
I can't believe he actually spent money on that stuff. I mean, that is just crazy. I was in tears. I was happy about the win, but I was more happy about when he was doing the montage. That absolutely destroyed me because we put in a lot of time, effort, and money into this. I know you do. I don't put as much money into it, but I put time and effort into it.
And your time is certainly worth something.
Yeah, away from when I should be a father to 4, I'm sitting in the corner of my room like a man child, and and my wife puts up with it, and to that it was like a little bit of a validation where it's just like, yes, our peers voted and whatnot, but just to be recognized, to even be mentioned in that, it brought literal tears to my eyes. So I couldn't believe that.
He really thought of us, and part of it is like a self-serving sort of thing, but that's what was most important about it to me, is we spend probably 90% of our time as people in magic show business who we talk to each other. Like, I would probably say that most of the tweets that I've passed out and stuff like that have been to folks like you, or the Discord servers and stuff like that I'm in are with people who are doing what we do, and the viewers are the one who gets this end product, but a lot of our experience is socializing with each other. It really reminded me of what's important, and it's the friends that we made along the way. Moving right along, the Segway Man rolls through the camera. To your top 5 cards from War of the Spark, what do you actually care about? What is the number 5 card that you think is worth your money?
Do I have an honorable mention? Is that okay?
I think that would be fine.
Okay, so my honorable mention is Mobilized District, and I used to play 8-rack in Modern quite a bit, and I know it's a little bit different than your standard pure Mutavault, but I think this thing, just being able to turn it into a creature at very little cost, it's kind of a build around.
This is that land?
Yeah, it's the land that I think it costs 1 less to activate into a 4/4 creature.
Yeah.
It might even be a 3/3 now I don't have it in front of me. But nonetheless, when you're in certain board states, especially in kind of like a Planeswalker control, because Planeswalkers count for this thing, it's going to allow you to have that finisher, and probably not just in Standard, but in Modern as well. So
I think especially Modern.
Yes.
Like, if you look at recent sets, I think it was Kessler or somebody had said, like, they're boosting the power level of Standard, and a lot of that might have to do with Modern not being as accessible to people. If you don't have $1,000, you're not playing Modern for the most part. So if you want to play something that ends on turn 4, you might get to do that in Standard now. Anywho, moving on. Number 4.
Number 4 is the 10th District Legionnaire. This is probably no one's talking about this card, but it is a it's a red white for 2/2 haste. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, put a 1/1 counter on it, and then you scry one. So essentially, it has heroic. And there is another card in here that's kind of a heroic enabler, like it was back in Theros block. But the reason why I'm going to buy a playset of this is because I run a Boros aggro glass, and I think Glass of the Guild Pack, this is exactly what Glass of the Guild Pack needed to kind of push it over. And that's the other thing, that this set not only has all the wacky, mythics and planeswalkers and legendaries and all that, but it's also giving us that last piece of something to push these kind of even tier 3 decks, like a Glass of the Guild Pack kind of deck, into maybe the forefront to be able to take it a little bit more seriously. And I think that this card is really going to kind of make a push for that deck to be a real thing.
Okay, so number 3.
No, this is number 4. This is
right, because you had an honorable mention.
Yeah, sorry.
This is not Sesame Street. We don't count here, so don't try.
I'm sorry. So 4. Oh, you said not Sesame. This is Sorin, the Vengeful Bloodlord. Again, this is and spoiler alert, this is the only Planeswalker on the list.
Okay.
I'm just such a Sorin fan. I love him because he's Batman essentially. But also, this is exactly what we need as far as maybe pushing another archetype into the forefront, and that is Afterlife. I think the Orzhov Afterlife deck, this is exactly what it needed kind of for a top end, where you could kind of, it's not a replacement for Teysa, but maybe an addition to, where you could, some other kind of lackluster things like the Orzhov Uligarsh or whatever, however you say that word. But I think Sorin is really powerful, and at 4, I think he costs only 2, one black, 1 white. It's just what the doctor ordered for this deck.
It's almost like these Planeswalkers are replacing enchantments, in like especially the ones that have these static abilities. And I'm kind of about that, because if you think about colors that have a really hard time dealing with enchantments, if you're in one of those colors, it's likely that you're in creatures. So just attack them.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so you're number 3.
It's got to be Fibblethip the Lost. I just want to own it.
It's not a bad card. Like,
it's a fantastic card.
It's doing some work in like goofy EDH lists already. Like, there are things to be done with Fibblethip.
I think that it might sneak into Modern as well. Maybe in a slip, like some kind of collective company shell. I think that I don't know. I have a feeling about this card where it's very. When I read it initially, it was very reminiscent to Norrin the Wary, and I'm just like, Norrin's seen some play, and I think that people are just like, oh, he's so cute, but he actually, I think, is going to be doing some work. Drawing that many cards is a very powerful effect.
So Fibblethip the Lost, making the list at number 3, and number 2.
Number 2, another blue card, and I think I tweeted this out. This is, when all is said and done, the literal dust settles on this set. Years down the road, I think that this is going to be the card that we're still talking about, whether it be in EDH for sure, but probably somewhere in an Eternal format as well, and that is Spark Double. Let's just talk about the ramifications of this card. This is, or what this card actually does. This is a clone that doesn't care about legendary. You could copy your Planeswalker, you could copy your legendary creature, and it's fine. And I think you could copy your opponent's stuff as well. So this is, I think that everyone kind of made a big stink when the Clever Imposter was spoiled in cons, where it's like the clone was copy target permanent. But just the fact that this goes around the legendary rule,
it's huge. Look at Brutaclad.
Yes, it's extremely powerful. I think this is going to be the most powerful card down the road.
Yeah, there are so many decks that it slots right into where people are like, cool, I'll take another clone. But the non-legendary thing, like Helm of the Host, there are so many opportunities. And anyway, moving on. Are we at number 1 yet?
We are at number 1, sir.
We're at number 1.
This is probably no one else has this on their number 1. Maybe Nick Prince, because Nick Prince is near and dear to my heart as far as this archetype goes, and that is Cruel Celebrant. It's a better blood artist, and this is exactly what Mar Divas or Aristocrats or whatever you want to call it. This is what the doctor ordered. Oh my God, having this powerful of a blood artist in this format is huge. And this is not just something that's going to push Mardu or just any kind of aristocrats, whether it be Orzhov or Mardu, into I think top tier standard tournaments, but this is going, or standard level tier whatever, but it's going to do the same. I think in Modern this might bring the aristocrats into the limelight for Modern and Standard. So definitely a play set of Cruel Celebrant.
We've got so many amazing tools coming, and it's kind of like there's no cards that people can say, oh, this is 100% the best card in the set to be excited about or whatever. Like, everyone can take something different out of it because there are such huge things going on. Like, let's take the Planeswalkers and we'll have that be the A plot, and then the B plot will be gods, and then we'll have zombies in Grixis. Like, just crazy, exciting things that all players love. They just said, go have a fun pre-release, and we'll send off the story like that, which I've said numerous times. I've made a video about it. I 100% think they're doing a soft reboot, which is what led me to this main discussion that we're going to talk about when we come back, which is the Magic movie. So don't go anywhere, don't touch that dial, don't skip ahead to any time codes, because we're going to be right back. We are back, and we are sitting here with John Dunning, and we are talking about the Magic the Gathering movie. No, not the real movie, but the one that we're playing pretend exists, only in his mind, and on this show today. So, John, tell me about it. You say you have some things you want to start off with first, before we get into specifics.
Absolutely. So, I have been one of the people on the forefront, like myself, like Ben Bateman, and everybody have just been like, we need the Magic movie. We've had all these other IPs got their time to shine, and where is ours? Definitely has the fan base, as we could tell from just WotC making that trailer. You know, I think the thing's up to like 10 million views at this point.
It is.
So I think that was also WotC's validation to say, hey, if we put production value, actual funds into something, an animated series or what have you, are the fans going to come? And guess what? They did. And they brought their friends, and they brought their grandmothers, and they brought their dogs, and it was just, it went over like gangbusters. So now it's a when, not if scenario. But
Yeah.
However, there is so much stuff to cover in the Magic lore, and it's so... you just can't jump into a movie. In my opinion, this is how they should do it, and this is how they should have done, and we're planning on doing another IP that was very near and dear to my heart that they completely screwed up, and that's the Dark Tower series. So the Dark Tower series is a book series from Stephen King that I've been reading my entire life, and how it was supposed to work is they were supposed to set the stage by having a short series where it was a series that kind of caught people up with the main plot line, and then they would have a movie, and then after that movie was out, that next year was going to be another season of the series. For anybody that is not familiar in the industry of what an anthology series is, that's the equivalent to like a American Horror Story, where each season is kind of its own thing, but it has connective tissue to the next to kind of lets you know that it's still American Horror Story, even though in season 1 we're talking about a haunted house, and in season 2 we're talking about an insane asylum. What they could do, they could start out with like the Thran, do an animated thing with that. That could be a season 1. Season 2 could go right up to the Weatherlight saga. And then once you kind of get to that point, maybe, you know, a season or 2, then you could finally do your boom. Because what the MCU did is they had time, and they started with Iron Man. They said, we're going to do this, and if it works, we're going to make it a thing. And guess what? Again, like the trailer, it did. Take their time, and they were able to, these characters like Captain America, Spider-Man, people wanted to go see these standalone movies anyways, or it would be a tougher sell if you had just a Jace movie and then into a Liliana movie. No one's going to know what you're talking about, and no one's going to show up to the Nisa Ravine movie. I'm sorry.
I think that is the key. Like, so the problem that I've had is I keep saying, soft reboot the whole thing. Nuke it all. Get it out of here. Because how is anyone supposed to show up late to this? But if you look at Disney Plus, they just announced they're doing Winter Soldier and Falcon. Like, that is the future.
Yes.
They're moving from just doing these slow-moving battle cruiser movies into, you get a big movie, and then here's exactly what you're talking about with these setup and backstory, and it's stuff that people care about, but it may not warrant a whole movie. Okay. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty details. Tell me, well, I don't know if you want to say director or actors or whatever, or plot first, but spill your beans. Give me something.
So, here's the plot. This is like kind of like proverbial, what is it? The dark blade or the black blade to my head. If you told me I had to write a Magic plot without any setup, it would basically be,
which is what I did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have the black blade pointed to my back right now. It would have to be just montage in the beginning of the Gatewatch. Doing a little voiceover probably from a Johnny or even a Nicobolus, whoever's going to play those characters. They're going to tell you, they're going to show you in animated form where our main team has come from in a very, unfortunately, probably rush type of way. And then we're going to catch up. Our first actual scene in the present day is going to be the Gatewatch solving some kind of low stakes MacGuffin, probably on Kamigawa or Eldrathra, just for the fan service, just so we could check that box and say that we went back. But it's going to have to be something like that, where it's almost like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the opening where they're all fighting that kind of Men in Black looking alien.
Just a day in the life, starting late into some adventure that doesn't matter.
Now the thing is, what do you make the MacGuffin in the first movie? And I think that you probably have to scale it back and do something like. So I think the MacGuffin would probably have to be something like an Eldrazi, because I think that would be a mistake to pick it up after the events of War of the Spark. I think that you still need to kind of go back a little bit, and the Eldrazi cinematically could be a very terrifying and really great looking threat.
And they can be kind of like, even though they're this cosmic, nasty, crazy entity that are so ginormous, they can be this one-of thing that you leave as your Jeff Bridges in the first movie.
Absolutely. And who's going to direct this? Who's going to helm this thing? And I'm saying I picked this individual based on the fact that we are going to get these other kind of lead-ups. And the lead-ups could be directed by a smattering of maybe young directors, like these young phenoms coming out the gate that need a break, or take some of the ones from Game of Thrones, because they're not going to be doing much after that. So they'll be available. But of course they are going to be doing a lot of stuff after that. I'm being facetious. But I have honorable mentions for the directors, and the first one being Matt Reeves, the director of Cloverfield and the Planet of the Apes series, or Planet of the Apes, the second and third one, because I think that he has a very great knack for humanizing his characters, but also humanizing his fantastical creatures as well. The Planet of the Apes effects, you felt more for the apes than you did for the humans a lot of the time. Being thrust in this kind of world, that would be a great pick. But my second one would be Alex Garland from Ex Machina and Annihilation. Oh. He is just an absolute phenom as far as visuals go. Who else would you want to see if they are going the Eldrazi route? Putting Alex Garland after he did that creepy skull bear with the girl's screaming voice.
Yes.
I think that could really make those Eldrazi terrifying.
The Eldrazi were exactly what I thought about during that movie. Like,
yes,
just
everything. That's Eldrazi land, right? Like everything is like grotesque and twisted and kind of a parody of itself. So the person that does get the nod is Alfonso Cuarón, coming off another Academy Award.
Wow.
And the reason why I picked Cuarón is, again, he does ensemble very well. He did the best Harry Potter movie. He directed Prisoner of Azkaban, so I think that he would be, which is very much an ensemble cast with fantastical creatures. I think that his effects for the time with the werewolf and everything, he did a fantastic job, and I think that he is the proper man to helm this project.
We've got our director. Who's next on the list?
So I picked a composer, and I was really close to picking Danny Elfman, but I think the nod goes to Howard Shore. He is, if you've seen David Cronenberg films or like The Fly, he does a fantastic eerie score, but also Howard Shore is responsible for the Peter Jackson movies, all the Lord of the Rings. So we're in that kind of a fantasy setting. But you also want to get dark sometimes. I think he's the perfect marriage of both of those. Moving on to our cast. Cast this movie for me. Who's first? Absolutely. So this is in no particular order, but the first one is gonna be Nisa Ravine, and this is the one I've been trying to cast the Magic movie for probably years now. And Nisa is always Rooney Mara, in my opinion. I think Rooney Mara is equal parts stoic and could still show that emotion. I think she is perfect for everyone's least favorite elf. Who's next? Chandra Nalaar. This is one that I've recast on numerous occasions. I think my last pick was Haley Steinfeld, but I think after seeing last year's remake of Suspiria, you said Suspiria, Suspiria, I mean, if you're gonna remake a Dario Argento film, you better come correct, and they absolutely did. And who else helmed it but Dakota Johnson? Most people know her from the Grey series or whatever that horrible Twilight knockoff was, but she is absolutely fantastic, and I think she's just fiery enough to bring Chandra Nallar to life.
Okay. So I take it we're casting the Gatewatch here. So do we have a pick for Gideon?
Well, I'll get to Gideon, but first I want to talk about Liliana, and that's going to be Alicia Vikander. We talked a little bit about Alex Garland and Ex Machina. So Alicia Vikander has, I kept kicking around Eva Green. I didn't really kick her because that would be really rude, but Eva Green would be probably a really good Liliana, but I think Alicia Vikander just has that porcelain look to her, and she just has that kind of relatability where you would feel for her when she's kind of Liliana before, like when she's like heretical healer, into when she kind of becomes, the badass that we all know and love.
Okay, so we got our Liliana. Who's next?
Let's go Mickey Mouse himself. That's Jace Beleren. This is another one that I've kicked around quite a bit. I had Dane DeHaan for a long time in mind, but I think we got to go Ezra Miller. And Ezra Miller, if you know him, he's part of the new Harry Potter movies, the Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, I know who Ezra Miller is.
Yeah, and The Flash, right? Sometimes.
You're the producer here, so I'm not going to fight you on this.
So the only thing I'm going to say is perks of being a wallflower. If you haven't seen it, see it, and he is fantastic in it. So I know he knows how to do it. It's just sometimes he's not put in the correct roles to kind of play to his strengths. But Jace is supposed to be so awkward and introverted anyways, that I think that kind of plays to his strengths.
So Ezra Miller is our Jace, and yes, as a more stoic, introverted character, I could totally see him bringing something essential to it. So we got our Mickey Mouse. Who's next?
So this is the one that you've been waiting for, and this is probably my favorite pick of the list.
This is like the most fascinating character to cast because there's so many people to put in his shoes.
Now, Gideon Jura. So Gideon Jura is, people think, The Rock, or people think Channing Tatum or something like this. I'm going Winston Duke.
Who the hell is Winston Duke?
Winston Duke is in Mbago from Black Panther.
Oh.
He's also in Us. I think that we totally, rebrand Gideon, and I think he's just so charming.
I love that.
Panther. He is just so fantastic. He could do jokes. He could be serious. He's like a African American version of who they have as Thor now. Once they started using Thor properly, and they're just like, he is so absurdly masculine that it's kind of funny. I think that he could do that as well. Chris Hemsworth. I don't know why I couldn't think that, but
he's got like this lovable aspect to him where you want to just hug him, but at the same time you want to hide behind him.
Yes, yeah.
That is perfect.
I love it because he is so Gideon in Black Panther, where he's just like, he takes his whipping and then he just comes back and he's like the most unlikely loyal person to his king and all that. And that just watching that, seeing that, I'm like, that is Gideon Jura, and I just hope Hollywood, WotC, listen, cast Winston Duke if you could get.
That is brilliant. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Did anyone else make the cut so far? Any honorable mentions?
So we got these are kind of maybe the throw-ins, like the flash forward, flashback, but still important enough characters to actually cast some real people, real actors in these roles, and that's Nahiri. I love Catherine Watterson as Nahiri, and Tom Hiddleston as Soren Markov. I was kicking around maybe Tom Hiddleston as Tybalt, but I think that's too on the nose. But we need some big bads that are not just Eldrazi, and these two characters I think would be really fun to throw in and make a humanized character as well. And that is Gary Oldman as Tezzeret. You need some kind of old actor, and who, if you remember True Romance, his character in that basically looks like Tezzeret. But I think Gary Oldman hasn't been a bad guy in so long in theaters or in movies. I think that this is a perfect time to bring him back. In the very last one, kind of going the Black Panther route again, but Lupita Nyong'o for Vraska. I think she would be fantastic. She just, again, like Winston Duke, just came off of making Us with oh god, I'm blanking. Who directed Us?
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele, thank you. Yeah, she just came off that movie. She is terrifying. She's sexy. I think that is exactly who you want to be your Vraska.
Wow, man, I gotta hire you to be my casting director when I have a budget of $80 million. But
sold.
No, this is really exciting stuff because we're actually talking about this as speculation. Like this is more of a theoretical discussion, but we're going to a place where Magic is going to have real actors cast as these people, and I think that's very exciting for the future. John, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been the talk that you and I needed to have from day one about Magic and movies, and I'm sure we're going to have you back at some point in the near future because this is our maiden voyage. This is the first time I've space ghosted anyone in, and who better but the king of MTG talk shows.
I don't know about that, sir, but I do thank you. I mean, as much as I am, I guess a Conan or a Letterman, you are just as much a
George Lopez.
Don't do that to yourself.
No. I'm not canceled yet. The network's trying to get me off the air, but I'm staying. Damn it.
No, you're fantastic. You do great stuff. Your production value is amazing, and you care, and it shows in everything you do. And I just wholeheartedly appreciate you asking me, of all people, to kind of break this format in. It's so much fun that we did get to talk about this, because if anyone is familiar with anything I do, why would you be? But the marriage of I am a dual kind of 50-50 type channel.
You're probably the only YouTuber out there like this, which leads perfectly into this segue where we plug you and everyone can find out where to find you and what it is that you're doing if you don't already know John.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on They Said We Said on YouTube. And like I was saying, that is, I am running a kind of a 50-50 channel where it's 50-50 Magic related videos, and then where I do talk shows like the Hive Mind, 10 Street Hooligans, and some deck techs from there. But even the deck techs have that movie flair. I would just be disingenuous if I was just a Magic channel or I was just a movie channel, because I need to put those two together, because that's me and that's my life. And then the movie side, of course, is and the movie side is, it's not, if you're a Magic fan, you'll still feel pretty comfortable because it's with Magic, movie talk with Magic folks as well. It's like my co-host on Director's Cut, where we talk about directors and their entire filmography. That's Jason Alt from Brainstorm Brewery. He is my wingman on that one, and we've had people like Ben Bateman on there from Masters of Modern, and so it's all these familiar things. We have Cult of Films, where we talk about cult movies, and then also and if you like cartoons, we have U-Tunes as well, with another Magic the Gathering community member, and that's Cody Smith from Fish and the Mere Folk podcast. And
the three of us are going to be hanging out this summer at GP Seattle. And if any of you are around, come bug us. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to John Dunning, of course. And if you like what I do, subscribe on YouTube. But if you love what I'm doing, consider supporting me on Patreon. But you don't have to do any of that, because you just spent your time with me and John, of course. But that's it. I'm stopping this show. I don't know how to sign off. My producer is waving goodbye. I guess that means it's over. Bye. MTG Tonight is part of the Creators Quarters community. For more great Magic content, click the link in the top right.